recognize this scene, y'all haven't been on this channel very long. Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. It's a beautiful cold morning on January 9th, 2021, and we've decided to take today and chase trains up along our familiar route, the CSX Palmetto Subdivision. The first train, just like any day out here, is 0823, the Tropicana and mixed freight local train, which now runs between Tampa and Tampa, stopping in Bradenton and headed back there. For those who don't know, we are currently in Bradenton on the crossing of US 301 and 41 as the two roads come together right here to form one wide road through downtown Bradenton. And the first move, just like any day of catching this train, is pulling the motive power off the side track, blocking this crossing for an inconvenient amount of time, and then backing onto the loaded Tropicana juice train consist. And just like any usual day of catching this train, there's two General Electric motors doing the work today. Though you can't see it, the two locomotives are hanging out over the crossing, causing the gates to come down and traffic to stop. What those people sitting at the crossing don't understand, especially the ones in the back of the line as traffic piles up, is that the conductor has to line this switch so the locomotives can go onto a different track now, but even if some of those drivers knew, I doubt they'd care. A very small consist out of Tropicana today, only 10 cars of OJ. One may be quite bored while waiting on a train to do something they want to see it do, but for us that wasn't a problem, because about 10 minutes before we had got here, there was a car collision just under the overpass of US 301 where 41 comes to intersect it, and because of that, the road was blocked off, and now the red barn, which was just across the tracks, was not accessible, so people went to some interesting measures to get to it. For the record, this is a one-way street, and this is not the one way it's supposed to go. What made this all the more ridiculous is that cars coming out of the red barn, who were going the right way, had to dodge all these people trying to beat the system.
Okay, so we're gonna back up right into these two cars. We're gonna do this now.
So in the mix of all this chaos, they had one more thing to do. The juice consist was pulled out past the switch and backed onto the mixed freight consist, which was 7 boxcars. Then, after putting it back on the main and calling the Alafia River Bridge tender to get the bridge at the Big Manatee down, the train was ready to depart at just after 11:30 a.m. Foreground there was Christian M. We had the honor of showing him around the Palmetto Sub today. Go give him a quick look at Multicolor Films on YouTube. Otherwise, with the juice train blasting off, we blasted off with it. Just outside downtown Palmetto now, the juice train begins to gain speed, and a lot of it. Manatee River was up next, and I wanted this shot especially because these old signals that are on each side of the bridge and govern the bridge are soon to be replaced by aluminum mast signals. I mentioned this back in November, but the new masts were still in the dirt. Now, one of them is up on the south side of the river. They haven't put one up on the north side yet, but I'm not going to wait around until they do. I'm not exactly sure on what type of signals these are, but I do know that chances are these signals still mounted on boxes are original to the bridge. And since this line to Bradenton was completed in 1924, these signals have likely been operating for almost 100 years. As the train approaches the bridge, the signal gives them a yellow, telling them that the bridge is lined and locked and ready for their movement. Why this signal goes to yellow and not green is beyond me. This could be on account of dark territory or speed restrictions, but the new signals are set up exactly the same way, so that was that.
Restrictions, you know, she's able to make things that she couldn't make before. She would fall under this. But anyway.
Catch the juice train at one last spot before concluding this train's chase, Santa Fe Road, right in the middle of CSX's Sutton siding, and our next activity was right behind us. Most of you would understand this ID by now as well. Here's 0750, the Palmetto Subdivision switcher. The dispatcher had stuck him into Sutton siding to wait for 823 to come by before they would continue south to do their work. Me and Christian would part ways here, and I'd head right down south to a familiar spot of mine to catch 750 beginning his journey south. Decided to stick around in Tampa for just a little bit because Amtrak 91 was making his way out of Tampa, so we found a spot just up the A line to watch Amtrak 91 blast off from Tampa. Once 91 got by, we decided to make our way south on the Palmetto sub again, knowing that 750 was somewhere along it. Closing in on Palmetto, we look down a road to see gates down, so we pull in and there he is. Having just switched to Trieste Chemical Company, having dropped off that one white tank car on his consist from earlier, and having pulled out 3 empty ones. He had also picked up 1 empty pink center beam from Port Manatee on his way down, and now with his whole train together, he was to head into Bradenton to cross the Big Manatee River so he could run the engine around from the back of the train to the front so they could then pull it back to Tampa, and switch a few customers back along the way. because all those hoppers on his train are bound for an industrial park near Port Manatee, and the center beam is bound for National Gypsum and Big Bend. Both spurs are aligned so only trains going north can back onto them. Tell you what I do know though, those 13 hoppers that 750 is pulling are loaded to the brim with ammonium nitrate. It's harmless by itself, but if this stuff catches fire, it can leave you in a world of hurt. This is the exact chemical that caused this giant explosion in Beirut of August of last year. Of course, the amount that ignited was way more than any train could ever haul, but you get the idea. With the drone up again, we are now back to the infamous Big Manatee River draw span. The Tropicana Juice Train and 0750 are some of the few reasons that this giant bridge still exists, but it still gets used at least once or twice a day as 075009 makes his trip across the span. This span these days is a lift key drawbridge, but as 750 crosses, I noticed something after filming that made me question what used to be here. These two concrete pillars on each side of a circular concrete platform suggests that at one time there was rather a swing span here, like the one at the Little Manatee River. I'm sure that was the case at one time, but chances are that bigger boats and heavier trains made the installation of a lifting span necessary. Once 750 got across the span, he would have about a mile left to get to the runaround track where we were this morning with the juice train, and he would use that to run around the train with the locomotive to put the locomotive on the north end so they could pull it back north. We didn't go down to film that since we've already seen that move, so you'll just have to take my word that that's how they did it. And with light fading, I had one last spot in my mind to get 750 on his way back north. This spot here is near the town of Rabonia. This road I'm on doesn't have a name, so I can't really give that out, but I did have the drone on another body of water just north of us, the McMullen Creek, which is only accessible via drone or trespassing. But even on the ground, it's a nice scene as 750 glides through the woods of Palmetto. And off goes 750 into the remaining wilderness of Florida. Y'all regular viewers will see this said wilderness many times after today, because as y'all know, the Palmetto Subdivision is unique to me. Whether rock hoppers, orange juice, or ammonium nitrate, I appreciate y'all for watching whatever I chase along these rails, and to the family I met at this last spot and their upcoming project, I again wish them the best of luck. And thanks to Christian and his dad for taking today to follow us and a train up the Palmetto Sub. So until next time, This is Kotabeaner, and I'll see you next time on the Sunshine State Rails.